Hi, and welcome back to Box Homeschool. My name is Trisha, and I'm a homeschool mom to 3 kids. They are going into 11th grade, 8th grade, and 5th grade. So I will have an elementary, middle schooler, and a high schooler. And I really understand why there's not as many moms sharing in the older years. And for me, the main reason is because time is so precious. Documenting the journey and trying to articulate what you're doing and how you're doing it takes some time, and time is limited. More so it feels in these later years because the kids' lives are living and they're full and they're not yet driving. So I'm often on the go and managing work and ministry on the side and trying to stay present wherever you are. And especially during that homeschool time, it just gets harder to share. But I'm so glad to share when I can, because these are the years that I want to remember. These are the years that are worth sticking it out for. And I know a lot of you are homeschooling maybe 5 years or less, and I really want to show and encourage that these later years are really worth waiting for and staying in it, staying disciplined and faithful and diligent with the work and the effort you're putting in, so that over time you'll be able to see that fruit. Today's video is sponsored by one of our favorites, World Watch News, and my family has been so blessed by this resource that it's so easy to share with you. And today my plan was to go over some of the things we will be using in our morning meeting time, not just the resources, but also kind of how I'm thinking of using them in reality. If you're curious about starting a morning meeting or morning basket, as it's often called, let me know if you have any questions about that. We have been doing a morning meeting for so many years, and it has made a real impact on each of us. It is the time I most look forward to in our homeschool. It's the thing that I was nervous about as my kids get older. I really had to sift through and decide, is it worth it for us to continue on as my older kids get more heavy of a workload? But it is the thing that keeps our homeschool together. It feels like the glue of it. It helps us to have unity. It helps us to have shared experiences in our education. And also it just helps us to cover a wide range of things in a short amount of time. And when they're younger, our morning time together was a lot longer, sometimes maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours at the most. And we would cover so many different things. We had a whole rhythm together. Our kids memorized so much scripture through that. We learned a lot of hymns and the history behind the hymns. We read missionary stories. We learned about different artists and composers, and we consistently had some piece of literature that was so beautiful and stories that still stay with us today. And those are the things that are the most memorable to us in our homeschool when we look back on the past decade plus, that really stand out to us as far as the stories, the memories made, the inside jokes, all those special little things that make homeschool what it is. So as my oldest daughter started moving into the middle school years, we noticed a little bit of a change. And then once she was in 8th grade, 9th grade especially, there was a big change in terms of her workload. I like to outsource a lot of the high school classes. So I wasn't the boss anymore, but that was okay with me as far as what she's assigned. Some of you may prefer to do a lot more hands-on high school where you're still doing the teaching, and that gives you so much more autonomy, flexibility, but that's just not for our family. So because of the different structure that my daughter had to follow once she was in 9th grade, I found myself really wrestling with morning time and how am I going to do this? I felt the tension of my daughter wanting to pull away so she can start getting through her assignments. And I started to feel that tug in 8th grade. So in 9th grade, we made a lot of changes. I kind of went through and pared down our morning meetings. While I picked a bunch of resources, we only used a few, and some of them I ended up doing just with my younger 2, while holding on to the most important things with all 3, which at the time I believe was Bible study, worship, and literature, like a family read aloud. However, after some time, my daughter and myself were able to kind of understand the flow of how high school is going to work. And there's so much newness to the high school level, especially if you do online courses. There's a lot going on with the portals, and especially if you use different vendors or resources, they all have a different set of, things, logins and processes that you have to follow and really learn. That's a learning curve that took some time. And then maybe in the second half of 9th grade, we were able to figure out really how much time does she have. And then again, reassess our morning meeting and see what we can do there. So 10th grade, same thing. We reassessed again in the summer and kind of rolled with the flow, rolled with the punches. I don't know. So now this school year with an 11th grader, 8th grader, and 5th grader, and it's our 12th year of homeschooling, you probably would think that I have it down and that I know exactly what I'm doing. But sadly, that is not the case. I have my resources pulled the ones that I really love, the ones that we loved last year and didn't finish and are continuing on. So while I don't know exactly how it's going to work and it's going to take a lot of trial and error, what I do know for sure after all these years is that this morning meeting with the family and selecting topics that are relevant and meaningful to your family is so worth the time. And I understand that temptation to only focus on core subjects. Like, we can only do math and language arts. Like, that's all we can do with my current situation. And I understand the temptation to get to a point where as homeschool mom, you're so exhausted. I just want to be done. I just want to do math and language arts, maybe sprinkle in some science and history once in a while. But by that time, I'm tired. There's probably a lot in that we could talk about and a lot of like personal circumstances and things like that. But I would suggest, if you can, to just add in one thing. And if you can only do one thing, I would suggest making that a really great read aloud. That is one of the things that really brings us together. And I don't know, there's some kind of secret sauce where it really squashes bad moods, bad attitudes, little squabbles going on. There's something about engaging in the same chapter for the day that really brings some peace and unity to the table. And then when you bought into that, like, this is actually really great, then I would add in some type of Bible study, age appropriate for your kids, to do that together. And then beyond that, there's so many options, so many great options. And I tend to lean towards like the beauty subjects, like music and art and foreign language, things like that. But lately I've been drawing in missionary books. I've been drawing in some practical things, curriculum, like this study from Campfire Curriculums that I'll share in a bit, cultural studies, biographies. I'm looking over there because I have a bunch of resources here. Things like that. They're just light touches of truth, goodness, and beauty every single day. With that consistency, it really builds some momentum and definitely fruit that you will see over time. One thing that has been extremely consistent in our homeschool since we've discovered it is our sponsor, World Watch News. And current events is such a great practical thing to discuss in your homeschool. I had been searching for a while for something that would touch on current events. In that research, I found some videos on YouTube, some like magazines you could subscribe to, some other online resources, and nothing felt right, either because there were so many ads from the YouTube videos. Also, the content wasn't what I was looking for my kids as far as like topics and political bias and everything like that. There was some magazines and I just felt like, oh, I don't know if I want another thing. We're just reading so many things. And I could tell the magazines would have like projects and other things, which could be so fun, but we just have other things that I value already for table work. So I did not want to bring in another like book type thing. So when I landed on World Watch News, it was such an answer to prayer. They have daily 10-minute videos that are designed for kids and families. They're age appropriate. I want to say my daughter was like 6-ish when she started watching. No issues ever. When there is sensitive content, I appreciate the warnings they give at the very beginning. It'll say like, if you have a sensitive viewer, you might want to preview story 3, something like that. And my kids watch all of it. But now when they see that content, they're like, oh, I wonder what it is. And usually that story number 3 is like so gentle, but that warning just shows you how thoughtful they are of children and their families and respectful to give that warning to parents. So yeah, my daughter started watching maybe 6, maybe 5 years old. The topics range from big world news like hurricanes and earthquakes to conflict between 2 countries. And then there are these fun stories like a chess competition or a fun animal story, kind of like fun facts. And I noticed that that balance really works well for my kids. And they're able to take in relevant current events that are important and that come up so much in conversation, which as homeschoolers, there's this reputation that we're living in a bubble because we don't regularly have the news just playing and our kids aren't watching the news. So this is an easy, practical way that our kids can be aware of what's going on in the world, to not be in a bubble, to have some sense of reality and what's going on outside of just us, which I love. And then it's also entertaining with the fun stories that they sprinkle in here and there. There are ads, but it's so different from like a YouTube ad where it's kind of random and you have no idea what topic it's going to be. These are ads for colleges or homeschool curriculum, and you can also skip past that if you would like to. I find it great for presenting the facts in an unbiased way, and I love that at the end of every episode, the host will end the show with whatever the news, the purpose of the Lord will stand. So if it's a war, if it's some stressful situation that was presented, it's nice to cap that at the end with the Lord's assurance and promises. World Watch News has offered such an amazing deal. This is the best deal I think I've ever been given to share, and this is for a 30-day free trial plus an additional 3 months subscription, which is a total of 4 months of World Watch News for free. That is just unheard of to me. 4 months free, 5 days a week you're getting these free current event videos, and I have no doubt that you're going to see the value in this for your kids, to be aware of what's going on, to watch it on a platform that you can trust. You can leave the room and not worry about what's going to play next or what kind of ad is going to be shown. It's just well produced and well done. And with 4 months free of this amazing resource, I really don't understand why everyone wouldn't do this. So great for homeschoolers and a very easy resource to implement into your morning meeting. So make sure that you click the link down below. That will take you directly to this deal. Thank you so much to World Watch News. So in addition to the current events video that's 10 minutes, my goal is to keep morning meeting to 1 hour. So I'm going to show you the books surrounding me, which are resources that I plan to use this year. A lot of them you've seen before if you've been here for a while, because we used some of them last year, and I've pulled a few new things in as well. So for Bible this year, my kids are all using a study from Not Consumed. And we started this in the summer, so there are 5 books in this faithfulness series. And I do have an unboxing of this that I can show you. Like, it goes through all of the studies that are included. I'll link that below. But this one, like I mentioned, they started this in the summer, so they're on book 2. And this one is on the book of Proverbs. It's called Got Wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And all 3 of my kids have a little booklet like this. There are 20 lessons, I believe. Let me just confirm that. 20 lessons all together. And they have so many different topics that we've done a few of these. And there was one about like sibling rivalry and like kind of like love your brother, something like that. That was really timely. I had been looking for something about that, and that was just timely. So it's great to just go on their website and kind of think, what is something that we need to work on? Self-control, patience, anything like that. And they'll probably have a study on that, which is great because it's addressing a topic using God's word. This faithfulness study is what I know for every day. So they do this independently. All my kids have the same set and they're all doing this independently. So first I'll share the studies that are carrying over from last year. And this might look familiar. It's Foundations in Worship. This is from Master Books. It is designed for middle schoolers. However, I read aloud one lesson to the family and then I'll pass it to my middle school son and he fills in any of the questions from the workbook. It's kind of nice because we're doing it together. Sometimes I'll go through the questions together and then pass the book to him. So we've already discussed it and he's just filling in the blanks. Another study we're continuing on is the Music Appreciation Study from Beautiful Feet Books. This is their book of composers, and we're just going to continue on with that. And we're not only learning about composers, but we're also learning the history of music, the history of different instruments, the countries where certain styles or certain instruments were birthed. And this has been really great. Another study we're doing that is our fun study, just for fun study, is Spanish 1. We're working through this slowly, but it's just really fun for our family. And I'm not sure what language my 2 younger ones want to take on more seriously for high school. My oldest daughter chose American Sign Language, so she already finished all her credits for foreign language for high school. But the brand that makes this Homeschool Languages sent me this a couple years ago, I think. And when I saw it, I just thought, I think my kids would love this, and they do. It's just so much fun. It is designed for younger kids, so if you have younger kids, definitely check this out. If you have older kids and they're a little silly like mine, then check it out. It's really well done. There's a whole box that comes with it with all these manipulatives. I do actually have a video on that I can link below. So much fun. Just something to help us loosen up, enjoy our time together. We laugh a lot, we mispronounce words together, and then they sprinkle it in throughout their days, and it's just a fun thing to do together. For these studies, the worship, the music study, and the Spanish, what we did last year was we did the Foundations in Worship twice a week. So any 2 mornings that were a little more free, we did this. And this takes about 10 minutes for each lesson. The Book of Composers I would do once a week, which is why we're not that far. And then Spanish we did once a week as well. These are things we're not using intensely, very loosely, but it's like a slow burn. But it's been great to just touch on these things and then they can still have time to do all their work. So the next couple things are resources we started this summer. So we will just continue on throughout the year. Let's see. So this is the Campfire curriculums. Let me show you. Printed and bound this. So it's called With the Skills of a Life Navigator, Passport to Adulthood. And this is the advanced guidebook. They have different versions of this for depending on the ages that you're using it with, but I printed this one out. This has so many different topics. The first one was etiquette, and it talked about different cultures and how different, like even hand gestures are interpreted differently in different countries. So some of the topics are manners around the world, manners make the world, executive function and the art of boredom, speak up, calm down, work hard, rest well, a time for everything, hygiene in public and digital spaces, immature marriages. In addition to reading this aloud, they also have a lot of activities that are included in each lesson. And what I like about this study is there's so many topics in here that I would not even think about teaching, but it really sparks new conversations that wouldn't come up otherwise, I feel. Another one we started this summer is called Beyond Personal Finance, and we are doing this twice a week in the summer whenever we can find time, whenever we're home. This is just a student book, and we've only purchased one student book and are getting by okay. I didn't feel comfortable to spend the money for 3 kids for this workbook. It's just higher than I would want to spend, but it comes with a portal, which is where all the video lessons are, and a lot of the links and things like that are easy for the kids to click through. So we only purchased one, and I really wasn't sure how this would go with just one student notebook because there's a lot of areas where you fill in blanks and write things down. So what I have my kids doing is each one has their own journal for this, just a blank notebook basically, and I hold on to this and I go through it. It matches really well with the video lesson. There's a parent portal and a student portal, and we kind of go through it together. It's not perfect with one workbook, but we make it work. They'll write all the definitions down in their notebook. They'll take notes in there during the video lesson. And so far we haven't had big hiccups, just small things where we're like, oh, we'll just do this instead. So I feel like it's adaptable and you can get away with this. But the topics have been really fun. They take us to this site where there's a survey, and once you complete it, it kind of tells you like what jobs you might like. And so it populated all these different jobs. Some they've never heard of, like my younger kids didn't know what like a civil engineer does. And so we looked that up, and just kind of interesting to go through those things now as they're young and they can have those ideas in their mind now or start studying. I think my son had architecture under his, so I was wondering what class would help develop that skill. I don't know. Let me know if you know architecture. I feel like it's a lot of math and science, but I'm not sure. So let me know if you've heard of anything out there for a resource for middle schoolers. Oh, I did want to share this. So this is a new jumper I got. I don't know if you could see. These are shorts. These are the shortles and these gigantic pockets. Let me show you with my phone. Look at how cute this is. So this is like to compare like a phone size, but look at how wide these pockets are. You can put a lot of things in here. But I love the length. You can roll these up higher or make them longer, and then in the back there are these straps that make this jumper adjustable. It's very comfy, very easy to throw on, and I have a 10% discount code if you're interested in this shop. This gauzy floral top is also from there, so I'll leave the link down below. I saw a lot of you guys use the code last time I shared what I got from New Flora, so I wanted to make sure I showed this one. These shortles are from the July collection, and this top might still be there. It's from an older collection, but it's like a gauzy with like a neutral floral pattern on it, which I love, and it just goes with everything. And like I mentioned before with this company, you can just put a lot of the pieces together, not put a lot of thought into it. It just works really well, and it's so comfy. I just think it's funny because I'm not into fashion. I'm just a normal mom, don't have time, don't have energy. So this is ideal for me, and I feel like a lot of you can relate to me in that way. So next are some of the read alouds that I'm looking at to read a chapter a day. Let me show you the read alouds first, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking. So the first one we're going to read is Laura Ingalls Wilder. This is a biography from the YWAM Publishing Company, Heroes of History. And all my kids have read books by Laura Ingalls Wilder, so I thought it would be great to read about her and her life and how her life inspired so many of these books. The next book I picked up from Christian Book is World Religions and Cults, Counterfeits of Christianity, and I just got volume 1. I think there are 3 in this, I want to say. In this book, it talks about different religions and cults, such as Islam, Jehovah's Witnesses, Judaism, Mormonism, and others that I've never heard of. I'm a documentary fan, documentary. Let me know if you are too, and if you have any suggestions. I will love to take your suggestions for documentaries and docuseries. I'm just all about it. But documentaries on cults are fascinating to me, and I've never read a book on it, and I just felt like my kids would be interested too, and it would be wise to know what's there, because right now I think they think God is good, and there's so many religions and teachings that talk about God, and it is a different God. And I feel like there's so many different teachings that use the name God, but it's describing something completely different. So my hope was awareness and just opening their eyes to what other people believe and helping to make the distinction so that when they're older and out, college, that getting a job, real world, real life, that they would have a strong foundation and a groundedness in that. My hope with this was to read a chapter a week. And with this one, my hope was to read it like 3-ish times a week, at least 3. My hope was 3. This one I have from the library. I might purchase it because I keep having to renew this and return it and get it back. I just have not had time to go through this. And I want to see if there's an updated version now, because I know I read this when I was younger, so it's gotta be really old. I really thought like, he's describing my dad. But I think it would be great to go through this with my kids. I like the history and the biography and the lessons always from YWAM Publishing. I love this as just an educational piece, and I like the practicality of this. So it's kind of trying to keep a mix going for read alouds. And now I have 2 new things that I'm going to work into somehow this year. The first one is taking Africa for Jesus, and we have finished taking Asia for Jesus. We loved it a lot. It was another study that we took slow, and I think I'm going to continue that with this next study. So this is designed level 5, 5th grade-ish equivalent. So what I'm thinking is reading this aloud maybe once or twice a week, similar to how I'm going to use the worship study twice a week. And then I do have the student workbook on this, so I think I'm going to pass the workbook to my 5th grader and have her use that independently. So I'll read this aloud to the whole family and then have my daughter do the student notebook so that at least all my kids are hearing these stories but not having to use something to process the information. These books are just so beautiful. This one is Church Life in North Africa. Photos are so lovely. There's scripture throughout. There are also prayer points at the end of each lesson, so you can have prayer points for each country, which is a really nice bonus. Look at this. So my hope is to use this really similar to Foundations in Worship, once or twice a week, read aloud, and then have her do the workbook. And then the next study that I have is from Beautiful Feet Books. This one is their latest study. So we have that Music Appreciation, which is that book of composers. They also just came out with Art Appreciation, and this is for artists. And it's been a while since we've done an artist study, and we really miss it. Here is their new book of artists, and it's done really beautifully, just like their book of composers. Let me show you. Just some of the pictures here. And this study comes with an art notebook where students can rate the art. They give their rating here. It's divided into the different eras. Oh, and it's also labeled by lesson. So this is lesson 47. They're going to give a definition of avant-garde and then rate the different art pieces. It also comes with this, it's pretty thick, this gorgeous set of different art cards. On the back of each print, there is the card number and also the title. So for example, so another really great study from Beautiful Feet Books, and it just reminds me a lot of the Music Appreciation study, which we really like. Realistically, I'm gonna hold off on this one until we finish our book of composers. I think it's gonna be too much for me to juggle the 2 because the style is also so similar. So I'd rather just focus on that one until we're done and then move on to the art study. So I'm glad I have this ready for us to use when we're ready. So let's do a sample day together. Let's say it's Monday. All my kids would wake up and get their breakfast, and then they would do their independent Bible study. This one technically is an independent study. I still kind of call it a family study, but I don't count this in our hours. So this is something they wake up, they do on their own first thing with their breakfast in the morning. Then we will move into Foundations of Worship. It's 10 minutes. We'll read this together. I'll pass this to my soon-to-be 8th grader, and he will work on that in a bit after we're done. Then I would have my daughter turn on the laptop, so she'll set up World Watch News for us. We'll watch that day's episode, another 10 minutes, so we're at 20 minutes. I would read a section out of Passport to Adulthood, so probably take a little bit less than 10 minutes, but we'll say 10 minutes, so that's 30 minutes. We would do Music Appreciation. This would take 10 to 15 minutes, so now we're at 45 minutes. And the last thing that we would do is our read aloud. So that should be 10 minutes or even less, just a chapter each day. So that's a sample of how I would structure our morning meeting for a Monday, hopefully with a little time to spare. And then from there, my son would probably be doing this independently, and they would move on into their independent subjects, math, language arts, science, things like that. I do have a video from last year of doing a morning meeting together, and those are rare for me to film because it interrupts our day more than usual. So I highly encourage you to watch that if you kind of want to see it in action in real time of how it can actually look. And I also have a video that shows how I lay it all out in my planner, and that has been helpful for people. I've received a lot of questions over on Instagram about how do you lay it out in your planner? How do you set up the schedule actually in your planner for morning meeting with the different resources? So I have a video on that where it's just showing the planner, planning out morning meeting in the planner so that there's not much thinking. So here I was just kind of making it up on the fly, but I would do that and write it down in my planner so that every morning I just come to it and it tells me what to do. I'm so glad to have found the resources that really work for us over these years and putting them to use. Half of these are resources we used last year and love enough to use them again this coming year. I hope that helped, because I know a lot of you are researching different resources, but to see someone else using them or their opinion of it, I know is really helpful. So I will list everything down below in case you want to check any of those out. Some of them have discounts attached, and I'll list that for you as well. Be sure not to miss the amazing deal from World Watch News. I'm so thankful. They gave us 4 months free. You don't want to miss out on that. It's just such a great resource. Not only is it a high quality product, but you are giving yourself, homeschool mom, a gift. You have 10 minutes of uninterrupted time. I tend to watch passively. I'm in the same room, but I'm preparing for the next thing. I'm getting books out. I'm checking my planner. I'm checking my email. I use that gift, that 10 minutes free while my kids are learning, to also receive the news myself, but to prep for homeschool life. I hope that you'll take advantage of it. I know that it will be a blessing to your family. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.